This was originally going to be double billed with a review of The Babysitter Killer Queen, as they were both movies that I was somewhat interested in reviewing that were both released on the same week, and I wanted to strike while the iron was hot. But then I saw Cuties first, and I realized that I had a lot to say about it, so much that it would definitely overshadow whatever I said about The Babysitter. I was distracted almost the entire day after because I was thinking of things to say and ways to talk about it. And now this is just a Cuties video. I might see The Babysitter Killer Queen sometime later and make a video about it, especially if there's a demand for it, but for now let's get into a more touchy subject. Cuties is the feature-length debut from French writer and director Maimouna Doucouré. I was interested in this mostly for one reason. It was the subject of a lot of controversy. The first time I found out about it was from the fact that everybody was angry at it. The trailer pitched it as the story of an 11-year-old girl from a strict Muslim family that gets involved in a more free-spirited dance group as they compete in a dance competition primarily by twerking. Once again, 11 years old. So of course, people accused it of sexualizing young girls. If the movie's Wikipedia page is to be believed, it's the 48th most disliked YouTube video in the world. And that only got a lot worse when some genius on the Netflix marketing team released this poster to Twitter with a provocative plot summary. Oh, and did I mention this was self-rated with the TV equivalent of an R rating? So they let it be known that this was a mistake on the part of the advertising department, and the actual movie is not like that at all. The original, more modest French poster that I showed earlier reflects the tone better, and the movie mainly serves as a condemnation of the sexualization of little girls. But that still didn't help, and there were still both people and petitions demanding it be removed. And I expected it to die down at least a little once the movie actually came out and people saw it. But it actually kind of built up with hashtag cancel Netflix trending, review bombing, and a right-wing group even calling for it to be investigated for child pornography. And honestly, before I saw the movie, this made me pretty angry. How could they call for a critically acclaimed movie's removal without even caring whether or not these allegations were bullshit? I went into this movie fully expecting to defend it, expecting to say all these people clutching their pearls haven't actually seen it and are just talking out their asses. The fact that I just said those last two sentences probably isn't a good sign for this movie. Before I get started, let me just state what I will not be saying in this video. I am not siding with any reactionaries. This movie is not child pornography. Everything defendants have said about the tone and it being against sexualizing children is true. I am not saying that Netflix was in the wrong for picking this up. I do believe this movie had good intentions. I'm not even going to say this is a bad movie overall. This will not be one of those videos that says that it's either complete garbage or that it's some kind of misunderstood masterpiece. The reality is more complicated than that. It's not that black and white. Now, anyway, yes, this movie is a critique of how society sexualizes little girls, and it should be praised for that. But the execution is where it goes wrong. I had heard that it used sexual imagery to make the audience uncomfortable. I was expecting a few brief scenes that would be blown out of proportion, basically something that would look like the dance scene at the end of Almost Sunshine, but this is actually a pretty big part of this movie, and it's gratuitous. While most of the movie is normal, the scenes of the girls dancing sexually are shown in an uncomfortable, sexy music video type style and go on for longer than one would reasonably expect or want, and feel even longer. While the movie clearly condemns it, it still does show it. Yes, there is a difference between showing something and endorsing it, but the fact of the matter is, it's kind of hypocritical. Okay, so we're making a statement condemning sexualizing children. Now to drive the point home, I need you to shake your ass in front of the camera, little girl. Yeah. That being said, there is a great critique of this kind of thing hidden in here somewhere. The context of it is actually pretty interesting. These girls are exposed to sexual images in the media and other things, and they absorb it and try to copy it. They try to be sexy without fully understanding what they are doing. They don't even know what sex is, but they try to adopt it into their style. Everything about how they condemn sexualizing children works, except for the scenes where they sexualize children. From looking at the rest of the movie, you can tell why it has gathered praise from critics. It has good acting, it's good filmmaking and all that crap. It's a pretty good coming-of-age story. From what I've heard, most reviews don't even mention the possibility that they may be sexualizing children, since most of them were written before the poster actually came out. Hell, I didn't even know if I'd be talking about it if not for the controversy, or at least not as much. Take from that what you will. Once again, I'm not saying this is some kind of softcore child porn or that it's immoral. It's not done to titillate, it trusts its audience to not be turned on. It's a gray area, but it's for the purpose of art. What I'm saying is that it's weakened by its reliance on this kind of shock value. For the most part, I'm cool with movies that make me feel uncomfortable, but this movie should at least show a little restraint. The high points of this movie happen in other, quieter scenes, or at the very least scenes where the dancing is not shown so glamorously. An example that I think best suits my point is the climax, which shows them dancing on the stage before an audience. While, as you may expect, this is mostly uncomfortable shots of little girls, there are also a few brief shots of the audience showing them to be just as horrified as the viewer is. and these get the point across much better than its shock value dance scenes, and give me a little chuckle when they came on, if only as a defense mechanism for the rest of the scene. If these shots were more prevalent, this could have been a good dark comedy scene where society sees what they've created. Now it's just 90% toothless dance scenes that think that just because they've shocked and offended you that they've said something meaningful. But no, this is not child porn. It's simply problematic. It just goes a little too far. I don't think the authorities investigating it will want it removed, so please don't review bomb it. And for the love of God, stop harassing the people involved. And if you think this confirms some QAnon conspiracy about how everyone in Hollywood is running some child sex ring, just grow up. Besides, if someone in Hollywood pitched this movie with this kind of treatment, nobody would touch it with a 50-foot pole. Only the French care so little about sexual content that this film would be made. I believe that if a movie causes controversy, then it must have done something right. This is no exception. It set out to shock and offend, and it did so in a way that most films cannot. Whether it should have done that or not is out of the question. It succeeded with flying colors, and there's no such thing as bad publicity. How many people would have even heard of this movie if not for the controversy? I know I probably wouldn't have. I'm completely certain that if this video becomes at least as big as some of my most popular uploads, some of you watching this will put this movie on. And if the investigation decides that they did nothing wrong, less people would be afraid to check it out. Even if it is declared illegal, I'd be surprised if they take it down completely, especially for something that people actually like. I'd suspect that in a few months they'd just put out another version with the naughty parts edited out or at least heavily toned down. And even though I'm obviously not a fan of censorship, that actually would make it a better movie. And people would see it and actually talk about it like it's a work of art. And even if it is removed completely, some curious people will still find it somewhere. And back to the review. Overall, it could easily have been at least a good 3.5 out of 5 if it wasn't so interested in cheap shock value and questionable ways of conveying its message. But here we are. Although everything else is pretty good, and there isn't enough dancing to make this a completely negative review, so I'm just gonna give it a decent 3.